12:58 p.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time. 12:43 p.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time. 12:43 The Lib Dems leader, Vince Cable, has said there should be an EU-wide boycott of this summer's World Cup in Russia. He said, "Do it collectively. That would really hurt them. The World Cup would not be viable. It would make it pointless." Urging the 9 other EU countries who qualified for the tournament to show solidarity with England, he added, "I am not advocating Britain acting unilaterally. That would be a futile gesture. It would cause a lot of annoyance in the UK and have minimal impact on the tournament." Cable said the UK could offer to host the World Cup if an EU walkout meant the tournament in Russia could not go ahead. John Woodcock, chairman of Labour's Backbench Foreign Affairs Committee, said England should consider not sending a team to Russia. Speaking to BBC 5 Live's Anna Foster, he said, "It gives me no pleasure to say this, but I'm afraid that the World Cup should now be in question. I think England's participation in the World Cup ought to be in question, but certainly there should be no question of government officials, dignitaries, of senior members of the FA going over there." He said he had not personally decided if it would be right for England to play in the World Cup, adding, "I recognize this is the pinnacle of a player's career, and they may only get one shot at it, so it's not a step that should be taken lightly." The Foreign Secretary, Boris Johnson, who said last week that it would be very difficult to imagine that UK representation at the World Cup could go ahead in the normal way, would only say on Tuesday, "You'll find that our response is commensurate but robust." 12:33 p.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time. 12:33 updated at 12:34 p.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time. 12:21 p.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time. 12:21 12:06 p.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time. 12:06 11:32 a.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time. 11:32 Matthew Weaver, Russia's ambassador to the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, OPCW, has accused the UK government of making unfounded accusations and pumping hysteria over the Salisbury poisoning. In a letter to the OPCW following Theresa May's statement that Russia has until midnight to explain how the Skripals were poisoned, Alexander Shulgin said, "We remind our English colleagues that Russia and the United Kingdom are members of the OPCW. We call upon them to abandon the language of ultimatums and threats and return to the legal field of the Chemical Convention, which allows us to resolve this kind of situation." Shulgin claimed May's ultimatum breached OPCW protocol. He added, "We would also like to emphasize that such explanations under the Chemical Weapons Convention are provided to the requesting state party as soon as possible, but in any case no later than 10 days after the request is received. In this regard, the ultimatum demands to provide information immediately are absolutely unacceptable. We urge our British colleagues to save propaganda fervor and slogans for an unenlightened domestic audience. There they may work, within the walls of the specialized international organization, such as the OPCW, one must operate with facts and only with facts. Stop pumping hysteria, officially formalize your request to us to begin consultations, in order to clarify the situation." Updated at 11:33 a.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time. 11:17 a.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time. 11:17 Russian exile found dead in London. Updated at 11:21 a.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time. 11:06 a.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time. 11:06 10:54 a.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time. 10:54 updated at 11:18 a.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time. 10:48 a.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time. 10:48 Matthew Weaver. Here are the key quotes from the statement given by Neil Bosu, the new head of UK counter-terror policing. Speaking outside Scotland Yard, he said, "I can confirm the following. Yulia arrived into Heathrow Airport on a flight from Russia at approximately 2:40 p.m. on Saturday the 3rd of March. At about 1:40 p.m. on Sunday the 4th of March, Sergei and Yulia arrived at the Sainsbury's upper-level car park in the Maltings in Salisbury town centre. They went to the Bishop's Mill pub before going to Zeitz restaurant at approximately 2:20 p.m. and they were there until 3:35 p.m. Emergency services first received a report from a member of the public at 4:15 p.m. and police officers who arrived in the town centre found Sergei and Yulia in an extremely serious condition on a park bench outside Zeitz restaurant. I can confirm we have identified the nerve agent and that has enabled the authorities to assess and help mitigate risks attached to it. The latest assessments reveal that 38 people have been seen in relation to this incident. Of those, 34 have been assessed and discharged from hospital. 3 remain in hospital, and that is Sergei, Yulia and DS Nick Bailey, and 1 person continues to be monitored as an outpatient but is not showing signs at this time. The UK's head of counter-terrorism policing, Neil Bosu, speaking at Scotland Yard. Photographed Kirsty O'Connor, PA. We are exploring all investigative avenues. This includes extensive CCTV footage from across the city and over 380 exhibits so far. In particularly, I'm appealing for anyone who saw Sergei and Yulia in Sergei's car, which is a red BMW with a registration plate, HD09 WOW, in the Salisbury area between approximately 1 p.m. and 1:45 p.m. on Sunday, the 4th of March. The police are going to continue to see a great deal of police activity in and around city, including potentially more cordons being erected. But please don't be alarmed. It is necessary as part of this major investigation. In truth, it may last many weeks. It is a painstaking operation to identify anyone of interest and eliminate them or include them, but at this stage we are not declaring person of interest or a suspect at this time. Updated at 10:50 a.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time, 10:23 a.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time, 10:23, 10:19 a.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time, 10:19, 10:17 a.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time, 10:17, 10:08 a.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time, 10:08, 9:53 a.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time, 9:53. Matthew Weaver. Guy Verhofstadt, the European Parliament's Brexit coordinator, called for EU leaders to agree countermeasures against Russia at a summit next week. The former Belgian Prime Minister, who has been a vocal critic of the British government over Brexit, said the attack had taken place on what was still European soil. He said, "Mrs. May has said this is an attack against Britain as a country, and I think that a common reaction in the next European Council summit, it is absolutely needed, and countermeasures should be decided by the EU. We need a common European response to this outrage." Guy Verhofstadt. At Guy Verhofstadt, the Russian attack on Britain must be discussed by EU leaders at the summit next week. We need a common European response to this outrage. The Director General of the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, OPCW, Ahmet Uzumsu, made the statement on the opening day of a meeting of the Executive Council. He said, "The recent report that 2 people became seriously ill in the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland as a result of exposure to a nerve agent is of serious concern. It is extremely worrying that chemical agents are still being used to harm people. Those found responsible for this use must be held accountable for their actions." With the UK unable to secure support at the United Nations Security Council or, so far from the White House, and neither NATO or the European Union seemingly interested in taking action, the 192-member OPCW offers at least one route to international action. Uzumsu stopped short of ordering an investigation. A member state can request the OPCW to intervene. This would involve verifying the use of a nerve agent and then investigating whether Russia was in compliance with international treaty rules on chemical weapons. Involving the OPCW could be among the raft of measures to be announced by Theresa May on Wednesday if she concludes Russia has failed to provide a credible response to the nerve attack. The Foreign Secretary, Boris Johnson, spoke to Uzumsu on Monday night, informing him about the outcome of the Putin-down conclusion that Novichok, a rare nerve agent developed by Russia, had been employed. All 192 members have signed the Convention on Chemical Weapons. An investigation by the OPCW would be potentially awkward, or at least embarrassing, for Russia. A police officer stands at a cordon placed around a payment machine covered by a tent in a supermarket car park near to where former Russian intelligence agent Sergei Skripal and his daughter Yulia were found poisoned in Salisbury. Photograph, Henry Nichols, Reuters. 9:34 a.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time, 9:34. Trump to discuss Skripal with May today. Updated at 9:35 a.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time, 9:39, 19 a.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time, 9:19. Martha Kellner. The FA are not aware of any crisis talks around a possible boycott of the World Cup in Russia, as reported in this morning's Daily Mail. It is understood that discussions are happening with both the world governing body FIFA and security services on a regular basis around the safety of the England squad, support staff and fans traveling to Russia. The Skripal poisoning has almost certainly been raised in these talks as a matter of concern, but as it stands, England will travel to Russia for the tournament pending any further developments. England attended Euro 2016 in France despite concerns around safety following the terrorist attacks on the offices of Charlie Hebdo and in Paris, including at the Stade de France.